The stage lights burned brighter than the truth ever did. Ethan Cole stood there, guitar slung low, his voice tearing through the packed Nashville bar like a confession he didn't know he was making. I sat in the shadows at the back, my heart a fist in my chest, knowing every word he sang, every aching, perfect lyric was mine. For 3 years, I'd been the ghost behind Ethan's music, the invisible hand crafting the love songs that made him a rising star. I was Noah Harper, 28, a quiet lyricist with a knack for turning pain into poetry. And Ethan was the voice that brought it to life. We'd met in a dive bar much like this one. Two broke dreamers in a city that chewed up hope and spat out heartbreak. He had the charm, the looks, the voice that could make you believe in forever. I had the words he needed to get there. But here's the part no one knew. Every song I wrote for him was about us. Not the us we were, two friends grinding out music in a cramped apartment, but the us I dreamed of. The one where he'd look at me and see more than his collaborator. I poured my soul into those lyrics, hiding my love in metaphors and melodies, hoping one day he'd hear it for what it was. Tonight, as he sang Chasing Shadows, a song about a love just out of reach, I wondered if he'd ever guess the shadow was me. It started in the summer of 2022, in a Nashville heatwave that made the air feel like molasses. Ethan and I were sharing a one-bedroom apartment off Music Row, the kind with peeling paint and a fridge that hummed louder than our dreams. He was 27 then, all sharp jawline and reckless energy, the kind of guy who could walk into a room and own it without trying. I was the opposite, wiry, introspective, always scribbling in a notebook, my brown eyes hidden behind glasses I'd worn since high school. We'd bonded over late-night talks about music, life, and the kind of love that could break you. That first night, we wrote together. We were drunk on cheap whiskey and ambition. Ethan strummed a chord progression on his beat-up Gibson, and I tossed out a line, "Your heart's a fire I can't hold, but I'll burn for it anyway." He stopped, looked at me like I'd cracked open the sky, and said, "Noah, that's it. That's the one." By morning, we had our first hit, "Burn for You," a song that got him noticed by a small label. I didn't care about the credit. I cared about the way his eyes lit up when he sang my words. But as his star rose, the space between us grew. Ethan was straighter, so he said, dating women who came and went like seasons, each one inspiring a new song I'd write, twisting my own longing into stories about them. I'd watch him charm producers, fans, and girls at bars, all while I sat in the background, my heart bleeding into the next verse. I told myself it was enough to be his friend, his collaborator, his secret weapon. But every time he sang my words to someone else, it felt like a betrayal I'd orchestrated myself. Tonight's show was different, though. Ethan had been distant for weeks, canceling our writing sessions, dodging my texts. I'd heard rumors he was pitching a solo album to a major label, one that might not include me. The thought gnawed at me as I watched him perform, his voice wrapping around Chasing Shadows like it was written for someone else. The crowd swayed, lost in the music. But I was stuck on the bridge. "I'm running out of time to say what I've been hiding." I'd written that line after a night when Ethan had crashed on my couch, his arms slung over my shoulder, close enough that I could feel his breath. I'd stayed awake, memorizing the moment, knowing it was all I'd ever get. After the set, he found me at the bar, his face flushed with adrenaline. "Noah, you were here," he said, clapping my shoulder like we were just buddies. "Nothing more. What did you think?" I forced a smile, my voice steady despite the ache. "You killed it. Like always." He grinned, but there was something off in his eyes, guilt. Maybe. Or something heavier. "We need to talk," he said, glancing at the crowd. "Not here. Tomorrow." "Okay. My place." I nodded. my stomach twisting. Tomorrow felt like a deadline. A moment when the truth might finally spill out or when I'd lose him for good. As he walked away, signing autographs for fans, I clutched my notebook, the one filled with songs I'd never show him. Songs that screamed, "I love you" in ways I never could. The next morning, Nashville woke up hungover. The streets quiet except for the hum of distant traffic. I stood outside Ethan's new apartment, a sleek loft he'd moved into after his first big paycheck, me hands shoved deep in my jacket pockets. The weight of last night's performance lingered, those lyrics I'd written for him echoing like a confession I wasn't ready to make. Inside, Ethan was sprawled on a leather couch, his guitar leaning against the wall like an old friend. The place smelled of coffee and ambition, with platinum records already framed on the walls. He looked tired, his blonde hair messy, his usual charm dialed down to something raw. "Noah," he said, sitting up. "Thanks for coming." I nodded, settling into a chair across from him, my notebook clutched like a shield. "What's up? You've been off the grid." He ran a hand through his hair, avoiding my eyes. "I got an offer. Big one. Republic Records wants me for a solo album. Full creative control. National tour. The works." My heart sank, but I kept my face neutral. "That's huge. Ethan. Congrats." He didn't smile. "They want new material. Fresh stuff. And they want me to work with their in-house writers." The words hit like a punch. For 3 years, I'd been his writer, his partner, pouring my soul into every note he sang. Now, I was being replaced. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay steady. "So, what does that mean for us?" He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his eyes finally meeting mine. "I don't know. Man, I owe you everything. But they're saying I need a new sound. Something bigger." "Bigger than what we've done?" I asked, sharper than I meant. "Burn for You Got You Here. Chasing Shadows packed that bar last night." "I know," he said, his voice low. "But they think I need to evolve. They don't get what we do. How we work. What we do." The words stung because they weren't true anymore. I'd been writing about my love for him, disguising it as universal heartbreak, while he sang it to crowds who thought it was about someone else. I stood, pacing to the window, staring out at the Nashville skyline. "So, what?" "I'm out." "No," he said, too quickly. "I want you in this. Noah. I don't know how to make it work." I turned, my chest tight. "You don't know how to make it work. Or you don't want to." He flinched, and for a moment, I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes, something like fear, or maybe recognition. But then he stood, crossing to his guitar, picking it up like it could save him from this conversation. "Let's write something," he said. "Right now? Like old times." I wanted to say no, to walk out and leave him with his shiny new deal. But I couldn't. Not when he looked at me like that. Like I was still the one who made his music mean something. So I sat, opened my notebook, and started scribbling. We wrote for hours, the way we used to, tossing lines back and forth, his chords weaving through my words. The song was raw, about a love you can't name, one that slips through your fingers the harder you hold on. I'm drowning in the words I never said. I wrote, and Ethan sang it back, his voice breaking on the last note. When we finished, he looked at me, his eyes searching. "This one's different. Noah. It's real." I almost laughed. They were all real. Every damn song I'd ever written for him was a piece of my heart, laid bare in ink and melody. But I just nodded. "Yeah, it's real." That night, I went back to my own place, a cramped studio that felt emptier than ever. I pulled out my notebook, staring at the new song, drowning in the words I never said. I wondered if he'd ever hear it the way I meant it. If he'd ever realize the love I'd been hiding wasn't just in the songs, it was in every glance, every late-night talk, every moment I stayed by his side while he chased a dream that was leaving me behind. I didn't sleep. Instead, I wrote another song, one I knew I'd never show him. It was too honest, too raw, a confession I wasn't brave enough to make out loud. But as I wrote, something shifted inside me. I couldn't keep doing this, loving him in secret, writing his story while mine stayed untold. The next day, I made a decision. I'd give him one last song, one final piece of me, and then I'd walk away. Not because I didn't love him, but because I loved him too much to keep hiding. The Nashville skyline glittered outside my window, but all I could see was the page in front of me, ink smudging under my shaking hand. I was writing the last song I'd ever give Ethan, pouring 3 years of unspoken love into every line. It was called Letting Go, and it felt like tearing out my own heart to give it a melody. I didn't see Ethan for a week after our last session. He was busy with label meetings, studio time, and photo shoots, his life accelerating toward a future I wasn't sure I fit into. I stayed in my studio, surrounded by crumpled paper and cold coffee, crafting the song that would say everything I never could. I loved you in the spaces you never saw. I wrote, the words burning as they hit the page. It was my goodbye, my confession, my way of setting us both free. When I finally texted him to meet, he suggested a bar on Broadway, the kind of place where neon lights and loud music drowned out anything too real. I found him in a corner booth, nursing a beer, his usual confidence replaced by something quieter. "You got something for me?" he asked, his eyes flicking to my notebook. I slid the pages across the table. "Last one," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "It's called Letting Go." He frowned, sensing the weight in my words. "Last one? What's that mean?" I shrugged, avoiding his gaze. "Just read it. Tell me what you think." He scanned the lyrics, his fingers tracing the lines I'd agonized over. "I built a world in the songs I wrote, but you never knew it was yours." His brow furrowed, and he looked up, his voice low. "Noah, this feels personal." "It's a song," I said, too quickly, just like the others. But it wasn't. Not to me. Every word was a piece of the truth I'd hidden for years, and giving it to him felt like handing over my soul. He didn't push, though. He just nodded, tucking the pages into his jacket. "Let's work on it tomorrow. My place." "Okay." I agreed, but I knew I wouldn't be there. I'd made up my mind to leave Nashville, to start over somewhere new, somewhere I could write for myself instead of for a man who'd never see me the way I saw him. The next day, I packed a duffel bag, booked a bus ticket to Chicago, and left the song on his doorstep with a note. "This one's yours. I'm done." I didn't sign it. He'd know. Chicago was a shock to the system. Cold, loud, nothing like Nashville's warm chaos. I found a cheap apartment and a job at a bookstore, trying to rebuild a life that didn't revolve around Ethan. But every radio station, every bar, seemed to play his songs, my songs. Burn For You was climbing the charts, and Chasing Shadows was everywhere. I'd turn off the radio, but the melodies lived in my head, a constant reminder of what I'd left behind. A month later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. It was Ethan. His voice was rough, like he hadn't slept. "Noah, where the hell are you?" "Chicago," I said, my heart racing. I needed a change. "A change?" He sounded angry, hurt. You just left. No warning. No nothing. And that song, Letting Go. I recorded it. It's blowing up. People are losing their minds over it. I closed my eyes, picturing him singing my confession to a crowd, oblivious to its meaning. Good for you, I said, my voice flat. Noah, what's going on? Why'd you run? I wanted to tell him. I wanted to scream that every song was about him, that I'd loved him since that first night we wrote together, that I couldn't keep breaking my own heart for his career. But I didn't. I just needed to move on. I said, you've got your deal. You don't need me anymore. There was a long silence. Then, quietly, I do need you. I hung up before I could say something I'd regret. That night, I wrote again. Not for Ethan, but for me. The words were messy, raw, about starting over, about finding a love that didn't have to hide. For the first time, I felt like I was writing my own story. But Ethan's call lingered, a crack in the wall I'd built between us. Chicago's winter bit harder than I expected, the wind slicing through my jacket as I walked home from the bookstore. My new life was quiet, too quiet, filled with shelving novels and dodging Ethan's songs on the radio. But Letting Go was inescapable, its chorus haunting every coffee shop and car stereo. Ethan's voice carrying my truth to the world while I hid in plain sight. I tried to move on. I went on a few dates. Awkward evenings with guys who were kind, but never quite right. I kept writing, filling notebooks with songs that were mine alone, no longer shaped by the ache of loving someone who didn't love me back. But Ethan's call had left a mark. His words, I do need you, looping in my head like a song I couldn't finish. Then, one February night, he showed up. I was closing the bookstore, snow dusting the sidewalk, when I saw him leaning against a lamppost, his breath visible in the cold. He looked out of place in his Nashville leather jacket, his blonde hair catching the streetlight's glow. Noah, he said, his voice softer than I remembered. Can we talk? My heart stumbled, but I nodded, leading him to a diner across the street. We sat in a booth, the fluorescent lights harsh against his tired face. You didn't have to come all this way, I said, stirring my coffee to avoid his eyes. I did, he said. You left. And everything. It's wrong without you. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Wrong. You've got a hit song, a big label, a tour coming up. Sounds like you're doing fine. He leaned forward, his hands gripping the table. It's not about the music. It's you. I didn't realize how much you meant until you were gone. The words hit like a chord I hadn't expected, but I didn't trust them. Not yet. You didn't realize a lot of things, I said, my voice low, like what those songs were really about. He frowned, confusion flickering in his eyes. What do you mean? I could have stopped there, kept my secret safe, but I was tired of hiding. Every song I wrote for you, Ethan, every single one was about you, about us, about how I felt, even when I knew you'd never feel the same. His face went still, like he'd been caught in a spotlight. Noah, don't. I cut him off. You don't have to say anything. I left because I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't keep writing my heart out for you to sing to someone else. He looked down, his fingers tracing the edge of his coffee mug. I didn't know, he said finally. I thought you were just good at writing love songs. I laughed again, softer this time, the sound heavy with years of unspoken pain. I was good at loving you. That's what made them work. The silence between us was thick, the diner's hum fading into the background. Ethan's eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw something new, something that wasn't just friendship or gratitude. But I wasn't ready to hope. Not again. I need time, I said, standing, You've got your life. Ethan, figure out what you want. He didn't follow me as I left, but I felt his gaze on my back, heavy with everything we hadn't said. The next few weeks were a blur. I threw myself into my writing. My songs growing bolder, more honest. I started performing at open mics, small venues where I could sing my own words for once. The crowds were tiny, but their applause felt like mine, not Ethan's. I was finding my voice, piece by piece. Then, one night, I got a text from him. Check the charts. Letting Go just hit 1. I need you to hear it. I ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. I pulled up the latest version online, expecting the same polished track he'd recorded. But this was different, a live acoustic version. Just him and his guitar, his voice raw and trembling. At the end, he spoke to the crowd. This song, it's for someone who changed my life. I just hope it's not too late to tell him. My breath caught. Was he talking about me? Or was I reading too much into it? Like always, spring in Chicago felt like a promise I wasn't sure I could trust. The city was thawing, but my heart stayed guarded. Ethan's words from the diner and that live recording looping in my mind. I just hope it's not too late to tell him. I wanted to believe he meant me, but years of loving him in silence had taught me to expect disappointment. I kept performing my own songs now, at smoky bars and cramped coffee houses. My voice wasn't Ethan's rougher, less polished, but it was mine, and every note felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The audiences were small, but they listened, and for the first time, I wasn't hiding behind someone else's spotlight. Ethan kept texting. Short messages at first, "You good?" Or "Heard you're singing now. Proud of you." Then longer ones. About the tour, the label, how empty the stage felt without me in the wings. I responded sparingly, keeping my distance. I'd spent too long building my walls to let them crumble so easily. One night, after a set at a dive bar, I found an email from him. No subject, just a link to a new song. Yours in the Silence. My hands shook as I clicked it. The track was raw, unpolished, just Ethan's voice and a soft guitar. The lyrics were his clumsy in places, but honest. I sang your words, but missed your heart / too caught in the noise to see the start. The chorus hit me hardest. You were always there. In every line / now I'm chasing what I left behind. I sat there, staring at my phone, my chest tight. He'd written this. Not me. Him. For the first time, Ethan was trying to say something back. I didn't reply. Instead, I went to an open mic the next night and performed Letting Go for the first time. My version, not his. The crowd was quiet, leaning in, and when I finished, the applause felt like a release. A stranger came up after, a guy with kind eyes and a shy smile. That was beautiful, he said. You wrote that? I nodded, my throat tight. Yeah, it's mine. His name was Sam, a 30-year-old graphic designer who loved poetry and indie music. We talked for hours that night, and for the first time in years, I felt a spark that wasn't tied to Ethan. Sam was steady, grounded, nothing like the whirlwind of Ethan's world. We started seeing each other. Coffee dates turning into late-night walks along Lake Michigan. He didn't know my history, didn't know the songs I'd written for someone else. With him, I could just be Noah. But Ethan wasn't done. He showed up again, this time at one of my gigs, standing in the back with his hands in his pockets. His eyes locked on me as I sang. I faltered for a moment, my fingers slipping on the guitar strings. But I pushed through. After the set, he approached, his expression unreadable. You're good up there, he said. Better than I ever was. I shook my head, wiping sweat from my brow. I'm just me. You're the star. He stepped closer, his voice low. I don't want to be the star without you. Noah. I listened to Letting Go again. Really listened. And I think I get it now. My heart pounded. But I kept my voice steady. What do you get, Ethan? He swallowed, his eyes searching mine. That it's about me. All of it. And I was too blind to see it. The room seemed to shrink, the noise of the bar fading away. I wanted to believe him, but I'd spent too long hoping for something he couldn't give. It's too late, I said, the words cutting deeper than I expected. I'm building something here. Something real. He looked like I'd slapped him, but he nodded. I'll wait, he said, as long as it takes. I watched him walk away. My heart split between the past and the present. Sam was waiting for me outside, his smile warm and uncomplicated. But Ethan's words lingered, a melody I couldn't shake. Summer arrived in Chicago, the city buzzing with life while I wrestled with mine. Sam was a steady presence, his quiet affection grounding me in a way Ethan never had. We'd spend evenings on his balcony, sharing stories and laughter, my guitar resting against the wall like a reminder of who I was becoming. But Ethan's shadow lingered, his songs, his texts, his promise to wait. I tried to focus on Sam, on the life I was building. He'd come to my gigs, cheering louder than anyone, his pride in me a balm for old wounds. One night, he kissed me under a streetlight, his hand warm against my cheek, and I felt something close to peace. But later, alone, I'd pull out my notebook, the one with songs I hadn't shown anyone, and Ethan's face would creep into the lyrics. His tour was in full swing. His name splashed across billboards and Spotify playlists. Letting Go was a phenomenon, critics calling it a heartbreak anthem for the ages. Every time I heard it, I felt exposed, like the world was hearing my secrets through Ethan's voice. He'd started dedicating it to someone who taught me what love means. And the internet was ablaze with speculation. Fans posted theories on X, guessing it was an ex, a muse, anyone but me. One night, Sam caught me staring at my phone, watching a clip of Ethan's latest performance. You still think about him, don't you? He asked, his voice gentle but pointed. I set the phone down, guilt twisting in my chest. It's not like that. He's just part of my past. Sam nodded, but his eyes held a quiet hurt. You don't have to choose, Noah, but you can't keep living in two worlds. He was right. I was caught between the life I wanted and the one I'd left behind. I kissed him, hoping it would anchor me, but Ethan's voice still echoed in my head. A week later, Ethan texted, I'm in Chicago tomorrow. One night only. Can I see you? Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him after his show at a small venue downtown. The crowd was electric, screaming his name as he took the stage, his presence commanding in a way that still stole my breath. He sang Letting Go last, his eyes scanning the crowd until they found me. The dedication came, softer this time, for the one who got away. Afterward, we met in a quiet alley behind the venue, the city humming around us. He looked worn, the tour taking its toll, but his eyes were bright with something I couldn't name. Noah, he said, stepping closer. I can't stop thinking about what you said. About the songs. About you. I crossed my arms, keeping my distance. What do you want? Ethan, you've got everything now. Not everything, he said, his voice breaking. I was an idiot. I didn't see you. But I do now. And I'm not letting go without a fight. My heart raced. But Sam's face flashed in my mind, his steady hands, his quiet love. I'm with someone, I said. Someone who sees me, who doesn't need a song to figure it out. Ethan flinched, But he didn't back down. I know I messed up. But I'm in love with you. Noah. I think I always have been. The words I'd dreamed of hearing for years landed like a storm, tearing through my carefully built defenses. I wanted to believe him. But trust was a fragile thing. And mine had been broken too many times. I need time, I said, echoing my words from the diner. I can't do this right now. He nodded, his jaw tight. I'll be here. Whenever you're ready. I walked away, the city swallowing me whole. My heart a tug of war between two men. Two lives. Two versions of myself. The weeks after Ethan's confession were a blur of indecision. I'd lie awake at night, Sam's steady breathing beside me, while Ethan's words, "I'm in love with you," played on repeat. I wanted to believe him, to run back to the life we'd built together. But I couldn't shake the fear that I'd just be his ghostwriter again, loving him from the shadows. Sam sensed the shift in me. He didn't push, but his questions grew quieter, his touches more tentative. One night, over dinner at his place, he set down his fork and looked at me. "Noah, are you happy with me?" I froze, the question cutting too close. "I care about you," I said, the words feeling inadequate. "You've been everything." "But," he prompted, his eyes steady. I swallowed, my throat tight. "There's someone else. Someone I've been trying to let go of." He nodded, like he'd known all along. "The guy from the songs." I didn't deny it. We talked for hours, raw and honest. And by the end, we both knew Sam deserved someone who could give him their whole heart, not just the pieces left behind. We parted with a hug, his warmth lingering as I walked away, my chest heavy with loss but lighter with clarity. I needed to face Ethan, not as his writer or his friend, but as myself. I texted him to meet me in Chicago, at the same diner where he'd found me months ago. When he walked in, his eyes were cautious, hopeful, like he was afraid to believe I'd called. We sat, the silence heavy between us. "I heard you and Sam," he started, trailing off. "It's over," I said, "but not because of you. Because I need to figure out who I am without you." He leaned forward, his hands clasped tight. "Noah, I meant what I said. I love you. Not just as my writer. Not just as my friend. I love you. And I'm sorry it took me so long to see it." I searched his face, looking for the lie. But all I saw was the boy I'd met 3 years ago. The one who'd made me believe in music and love and impossible dreams. "Why now?" I asked. "After all this time." He reached into his bag, pulling out a notebook mine, the one I'd left on his doorstep. "I read every song," he said, "not just letting go. All of them." And I saw every word, every line. It was us. I was just too scared to admit what it meant. My heart pounded, but I kept my voice steady. "I can't go back to how things were. Ethan, I can't be your secret anymore." "You won't be," he said, his voice fierce. "I'm done hiding. I want use out in the open. No more shadows." I wanted to believe him, but trust was a leap I wasn't sure I could make. "Prove it," I said. "Show me it's real." He nodded, his eyes never leaving mine. "I will. Whatever it takes." We left the diner together, walking into the Chicago night. The future uncertain but alive with possibility. For the first time, I felt like my story, the one I'd been writing in secret, might finally have a chance to be heard. Fall painted Chicago in golds and reds, a backdrop to the new rhythm Ethan and I were trying to find. He stayed in the city, renting a small apartment near mine, showing up at my gigs with a shy smile that felt like a promise. We weren't rushing, too much history lay between us, but we were trying, step by cautious step, to build something real. He kept his word. At his next show, a sold-out gig at a Chicago theater, he did something I never expected. Before singing Letting Go, he took the mic. His voice steady despite the nerves in his eyes. This song was written by someone who means everything to me, he said. Noah Harper, my collaborator, my friend, and the man I love. The crowd gasped, then cheered, the sound washing over me as I stood in the wings, my heart in my throat. He'd said it out loud, to the world. No more shadows. After the show, he found me backstage, his face flushed with adrenaline and something softer. Was that enough? He asked, half teasing, half scared. I laughed, pulling him into a hug. It's a start. We started writing together again, but it was different now. No more hiding my feelings. No more disguising my love as someone else's story. Our songs were bolder, truer, a mix of his voice and mine, our harmonies weaving together on and off the stage. We performed as a duo sometimes, my guitar joining his, my voice rough but honest beside his polished tenor. The crowds loved it. But more than that, I loved who I was becoming, not just Ethan's ghostwriter, but his partner, in music and in life. There were challenges. The internet wasn't always kind, and some fans turned away when Ethan came out. But others stayed, drawn to the raw honesty of our music. We faced the world together, his hand in mine, and I realized that letting go hadn't meant losing him, it had meant giving us both the chance to be free. One night, as we sat on his apartment floor, guitars in our laps, I wrote a new line. I found you when I lost myself. And we built a home in the truth. Ethan smiled, adding a chord that made the words soar. That's us, he said, leaning over to kiss me, soft and sure. The song became our anthem, a testament to the journey we'd taken from secrets to spotlight, from longing to love. We called it Home in the Truth. And when we sang it together, I felt the weight of all those years lift. I'd been the ghostwriter behind his love songs. But now, I was the one he was singing to. As we stood on stage one crisp October night, the Chicago skyline glittering behind us, I looked at Ethan, his eyes bright with the same love I'd carried for so long. The crowd faded. The world narrowed to just us. And I knew this was the ending I'd always hoped for, not perfect, but real, and ours.